Did Abraham Lincoln become a vampire hunter after the Civil War? Well, there's no evidence he hunted vampires, but there is evidence of an event that inspired a famous story about him doing just that. Hello and welcome to this house. Today we are exploring the legend of President Abraham Lincoln hunting vampires. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an exciting episode. In 1816, a 2-year-old girl from Kentucky named Sarah Winchester moved with her family to New Orleans. Just a few months later, she came down with a high fever and died within a week. Her body was embalmed and placed in a coffin. But soon after, her family began to notice that the coffin was unusually heavy and that the lid was nailed shut from the inside. When they finally pried it open, they found Sarah's body was covered in blood, and her heart and liver were missing. The family concluded that Sarah had been the victim of a vampire, and that's when her uncle, a man named John Franklin, decided to kill the creature that was preying upon his niece. He tracked it to a swamp where alligators were said to live and shot it dead. Then he chopped off its head and threw it in a nearby river. Many years later, President Abraham Lincoln heard about this tale and was so taken by it that he told his close friend, author and editor Noah Brooks to write it down. Brooks published the story in a collection of Southern folklore, which he titled The Grave Digger's Tales. And while the story was fictional, it was rooted in fact. It was based on the real experiences of John Franklin. And to prove it, Brooks included a postscript letter from Franklin himself, written 23 years after the alleged incident. In the letter he wrote, "In relating the following, I do not wish to be considered as a witness of what is termed supernatural, but merely as that of a transaction which I know to be true, though the result might admit of different constructions." Well, Mr. Brooks, if your intention was to fool us, I say you have succeeded. We now consider the story to be an authentic narrative and Mr. Franklin's letter to be irrefutable proof. But, unfortunately, there's more to the story than that. You see, historians have since discovered that much of the story, as well as Franklin's letter, was lifted directly from an 1839 book called The Vampire, or The Bride of Lammermoor, a Gothic romance novel written by American author J.T. Devereux. Not only does the plot of the novel mirror that of The Gravedigger's Tale, but there are several direct quotes in Franklin's letter that can be found word for word in the pages of The Vampire. So either Franklin plagiarized the fictional story he had previously read, or the whole thing was an elaborate hoax concocted by Brooks and Lincoln to promote the former's new book of folk tales. What makes matters worse is that even if the alligator man in the story was meant to represent a vampire, vampires don't actually exist, and therefore Lincoln didn't actually hunt one. However, he did come close to encountering a real live vampire bat while traveling through Indiana in 1844. While staying at the home of a family named Pierce, Lincoln retired to his room for the night, and in the middle of the night, he was awakened by what sounded like screams in the chimney. When he turned to leave the room, he noticed a small bat fluttering around his bed. Startled, he grabbed a stick and whacked it until it fell to the floor and hung upside down. He kept it in his room for the rest of his stay as a sort of trophy, and allegedly took it with him to the White House. Unfortunately, there's no physical evidence that Lincoln ever owned a jar containing a bat, although there is a jar containing a bat in the Lincoln Presidential Library and Museum that's purportedly from the White House. As for the story of Lincoln wrestling an alligator to death in order to retrieve a stolen watermelon, well, that's almost certainly just a myth. Thank you all for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an exciting episode. And don't forget to give this video a like and share it with your friends.